When life tightens its grip, when everything seems to close in at once, and the pressure feels unbearable, that's when survival isn't optional, it's essential. You don't get to coast through hard seasons. You either stand or you break. You either face it or you fold. But what separates those who keep moving from those who collapse under the weight? It's not talent. It's not education. It's not even luck. It's strategy. It's mindset. It's resilience forged in discipline. There are things you must do, non-negotiables, if you want to make it through tough times with your head held high and your future still intact. These aren't fancy tactics or temporary fixes. They're foundational. When everything else is shaking, these are the anchors that keep you grounded. These are the habits, the decisions, the shifts in perspective that turn survival into strength. This isn't theory. This is what it takes. When the lights go out, when the noise gets loud, when the pain is real, this is what you hold on to. You must take control of your mind. When life gets hard, your greatest enemy isn't the outside pressure. It's your internal dialogue. It's the voice that says, I can't handle this. This is too much. It's not fair. And if you let that voice lead, it will take you somewhere dark, somewhere weak, somewhere you do not want to go. Tough times are a test of mental discipline, because when the world outside starts shaking, your only chance is to make sure the world inside stays solid. You can't afford to let your thoughts spiral. You can't afford to give fear a seat at the table. You have to fight to protect your focus, your beliefs, your standards. This doesn't mean pretending everything's okay. It means choosing what kind of energy you're going to fuel. Are you feeding panic, or are you feeding clarity? Are you running stories that make you weaker, or are you speaking truths that give you strength? Your mind can either be your worst enemy or your greatest ally, but it won't choose sides. It'll follow your lead. That means you have to lead it. You have to direct it. You have to tell it where to go when everything around you is trying to pull it into fear. You do that by becoming aware of your thoughts, catching them in the moment, questioning them, challenging the lies, replacing them with something stronger. You do it by being deliberate about your language, the way you talk to yourself when no one else is around. Because in the silence, your survival is being decided. When you're in a storm, you don't need positivity. You need presence. You don't need hype. You need habits. You need to wake up and do the work before the chaos can talk you out of it. You need to ground yourself in discipline, not for results, not for outcomes, just so you don't get pulled under. Mental toughness isn't about acting strong. It's about getting real. It's about understanding that life will not stop being difficult just because you're overwhelmed. It's about being able to say, this is hard, but I'm not quitting. It's about facing the truth head on without letting it break you. You train your mind the same way you train your body. Representatives, consistency, repetition. You don't wait until things are easy to build your mental strength. You build it in the middle of the storm. You build it by choosing what you focus on, by deciding what meaning you attach to your pain, by standing guard at the gates of your thoughts. You must become the kind of person who knows how to speak power into your own soul when everything else is falling apart. The kind of person who knows how to breathe when the pressure rises, who knows how to reset, realign, and keep showing up, not because it's easy, but because you refuse to be ruled by weakness. Control your mind or it will control you. That's not a cliche, that's survival. In tough times, you don't rise to the occasion. You fall to the level of your preparation. and your preparation begins in your thoughts. You must simplify everything. When life gets heavy, when the storm hits, when your energy is low and your capacity is tested, complexity becomes your enemy. Complexity drains energy. It overwhelms your focus. It feeds anxiety. When everything around you is chaotic, your power comes from creating clarity inside your world. That means cutting the noise, cutting the distractions, cutting the unnecessary. You need to reduce your life down to what actually matters, what actually moves you forward, what actually strengthens you. People lose themselves in hard seasons because they try to carry too much. They're trying to manage stress, fix everyone else, keep up appearances, chase goals, meet expectations, and all of it at once. But when the pressure is real, you don't need more on your plate. You need less. This is the time to strip things back. Get honest about what matters. Identify the few non-negotiables, the small handful of priorities that, if you keep showing up for them, will keep you grounded, will keep you strong, will keep you from unraveling. You need rhythm, not randomness. You need routine that calms your mind, structure that gives you certainty when the world feels unstable. Maybe that's getting up at the same time, moving your body for 10 minutes, journaling, taking a walk, drinking water, saying no to things you used to say yes to. Simplicity is not weakness. It's focus. It's clarity. It's strategy. It's the decision to make life lighter so you can carry what matters with more strength. In tough times, the worst thing you can do is try to live like everything's normal, because it's not. If you're in a storm, stop pretending it's summer. Stop holding yourself to standards that don't fit the season you're in. You're not giving up. You're adapting. You're choosing what gets your energy and what doesn't. There's power in saying, I'm not doing that right now. I'm not responding to that drama. I'm not chasing that outcome. I'm not trying to be everything to everyone. Because if it's not strengthening you, it's weakening you. And right now you can't afford to waste strength. Get quiet, get small, get focused. What are the 3 to 5 things that, if you just do them consistently, will keep you moving, even if it's slow? What are the few decisions you can make every day that will keep you aligned, grounded, and steady when everything else feels off? The truth is, survival isn't complicated. It's just hard. But hard gets easier when you stop making life heavier than it needs to be. When you stop chasing 10 different directions and start locking in on the few things that keep you strong. You don't need to fix everything. You don't need to achieve everything. You don't need to solve the whole storm in one day. You just need to stay steady, stay consistent, keep breathing, keep showing up. And you do that by simplifying. Strip away everything that doesn't serve your peace, your strength, your clarity. Choose less, but choose better. And you'll find that even in the hardest seasons, you still have what it takes to endure. You must keep showing up. When everything in you wants to quit, when your energy is gone, when your motivation is dry, when your heart feels heavy, you still show up. Not perfectly, not powerfully, but consistently. There will be days when you don't want to get out of bed, days when it feels like nothing you're doing matters, days when progress is invisible and hope feels like a lie. And on those days, you still move. You still do the reps. You still take the walk. You still write the words. You still follow through. Because momentum doesn't care how you feel. Progress doesn't wait for you to be inspired. It rewards action, even small action, especially small action. People think survival means finding some burst of strength and heroically pushing through. But more often it looks like dragging yourself through a fog with no applause, no results, no clarity, just faith, just repetition, just grit. You have to decide that even if your pace slows, your presence won't stop. That even if your mood crashes, your habits won't. That even if your passion fades, your discipline will carry you until it returns. It's not about winning every day. It's about not quitting. It's about putting your shoes on when you don't want to. It's about picking up the phone when your mind is telling you to isolate. It's about pushing through one more set, one more hour, one more uncomfortable conversation. You won't feel strong every day. You're not supposed to. But your presence is a weapon. Your ability to keep showing up, even if it's messy, even if it's quiet, even if it's invisible, that's what builds your resilience. Don't confuse exhaustion with failure. Don't mistake discouragement for defeat. You're allowed to be tired. You're allowed to feel like this season is unfair, but you're not allowed to disappear. You're not allowed to surrender your future just because today is hard. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply refuse to leave. Refuse to break your own trust. Refuse to abandon the version of you who is counting on your consistency. Your future self doesn't need you to be heroic. They need you to be dependable, to do the small things, to stay in motion, to plant seeds, even when the ground looks dry. Because the day you want to quit is often the day that would have changed everything. And the only way you'll ever know is if you keep going. Even when you're numb, even when you're angry, even when it feels like no one sees you, especially then, because those are the days that forge you. Those are the days that shape you into someone who can carry weight without falling apart. Survival is a choice made every morning, not once, not occasionally, every single day. And that choice becomes your identity. It becomes your rhythm. It becomes the proof that you can endure even the darkest seasons without letting go of yourself. So no matter what, you show up. Late, if you have to. Tired, if you have to. But you don't break the chain. You don't leave the process. You don't quit on the life you haven't finished building. You must protect your peace. When you're walking through chaos, your survival depends on what you allow in and what you keep out. Not everything deserves your energy. Not everyone deserves your access. There's a kind of exhaustion that doesn't come from doing too much. It comes from absorbing too much. Too many opinions, too much noise, too many people projecting their fear, their doubt, their limitations onto you. And if you don't draw the line, you'll carry weight that was never yours to hold. In hard times, your peace becomes sacred. You can't afford to let people disturb it just because they're used to having your attention. You can't afford to let drama take root in a season when you need clarity. You can't afford to let other people's chaos become your atmosphere. That means saying no without guilt. That means turning down invitations. That means logging off, stepping back, disconnecting from anything that robs you of stability. Because your nervous system doesn't care about being polite. It cares about safety. And if peace is what keeps you steady, then it's not optional. It's not a luxury. It's a survival strategy. It's oxygen. It's armor. And you protect it by setting boundaries, by choosing stillness, by walking away from anything that doesn't match the energy you're trying to hold on to. You are not obligated to stay accessible to people who drain you. You're not required to explain your need for quiet. You are allowed to build a world around you that supports your strength, even if others don't understand it. The truth is, not everyone deserves to walk with you through hard seasons. Some people will only add confusion, insecurity and noise. And just because someone has been close to you doesn't mean they should have a front row seat to your pain. This is the season for selective access, for choosing conversations that nourish you, for being around people who remind you of your strength, not your wounds, for protecting your schedule like your life depends on it, because it does. Peace isn't the absence of struggle. It's the presence of perspective. It's what allows you to breathe while everything else feels suffocating. And the more you protect it, the more clarity you gain, the more direction you find, the more capable you become. So if someone doesn't respect your boundaries, they don't respect your survival. If something pulls you out of alignment, you owe it no further attention. If a place or a person costs you your peace every time you engage, the math is simple. It's too expensive. There's no prize for suffering needlessly. There's no medal for staying loyal to dysfunction. This is not the season to prove your endurance by tolerating chaos. This is the season to guard your energy like it's all you have. Because some days it is. And when peace becomes your priority, everything shifts. You move slower, but with purpose. You speak less, but with more weight. You stop reacting and start responding. You stop explaining and start choosing. This is how you make it through. Not by becoming more like the storm, but by becoming more like the calm that carries you through it. Peace is not a personality trait. It's a power move. And in tough times, it's your foundation. You must find meaning in the pain. When everything falls apart, when you're hurting, when nothing seems to make sense, your instinct will be to escape, to run, to numb, to avoid. But you cannot heal what you refuse to face. Pain isn't just something to get through. It's something to learn from. And if you don't find meaning in what you're walking through, you'll waste it. You'll come out on the other side bitter instead of better. You don't have to love the storm. You don't have to pretend it doesn't hurt. But you must decide that it will not be for nothing. You must decide that this season will shape you, sharpen you, deepen you, even if it breaks you open first. There's a kind of strength that can only be found in struggle, not in success, not in comfort, in raw, unfiltered pain. That's where you meet yourself. That's where you discover what you're made of. And if you stay present long enough, if you stop asking, why me, and start asking, what can this teach me? You begin to shift. You stop being a victim of your circumstances and start becoming a steward of your growth. The truth is, growth hurts, but so does staying stuck. So does denial. So does pretending everything is fine when it's not. The difference is, pain with purpose changes you. Pain with no meaning just repeats itself. You must look your pain in the face and say, you don't get to break me, you get to build me. You get to teach me what matters. You get to refine me. You get to introduce me to strength I never knew I had. Tough times don't just test you, they train you. They reveal what was hidden. They develop what was undeveloped. They remove what was never needed. And you don't see it in the moment, but you will. You will. If you try to numb the pain, you numb the lesson. If you rush the process, you miss the transformation. And you can't afford to walk through fire just to come out the same. You must find a reason to keep going, not a shallow reason, a real one. One that grips your heart and won't let go. One that says, if I make it through this, I will never be the same, and that will be worth it. Sometimes that reason is your future. Sometimes it's your family. Sometimes it's your faith. Sometimes it's simply the person you haven't met yet, the version of you that only pain can reveal. But whatever it is, you must hold on to it, because pain without purpose is unbearable. So dig deep. Ask the hard questions. What is this season teaching me? What am I learning about myself? What needs to change? What needs to heal? What do I never want to forget about this experience? You don't get to choose the storm, but you get to choose what it creates in you. You get to choose whether you let it define you or refine you. You get to decide if it will be the end of something or the beginning. This is how you survive, not just by getting through the pain, but by using it, by finding meaning, by turning the most brutal chapters of your story into the foundation for your strength. You must stay connected. When everything falls apart, isolation starts to look like safety. You start telling yourself, no one understands. I'll deal with this alone. I don't want to be a burden. And that mindset is dangerous. Because while solitude can be healing, isolation can be lethal. The more you pull back, the easier it becomes to spiral. The more you convince yourself that you don't need anyone, the deeper you sink into survival mode. And that's when your vision starts to blur. That's when your mind starts to turn on you. Connection is not just emotional, it's structural. It gives you accountability. It gives you reflection. It gives you feedback, perspective, and strength when your own strength is fading. In hard times, the tendency is to withdraw. But that's when you need people the most. Not people who will pity you. Not people who will give you easy answers. People who will sit with you, stand with you, tell you the truth, remind you of who you are when you forget. You need someone to say, I see your pain, and I'm not leaving. You need someone who isn't trying to fix you, but who refuses to let you disappear. That kind of presence isn't optional. It's part of your healing. But here's the truth. Connection isn't always convenient. It takes effort. It takes vulnerability. It takes reaching out even when you don't feel like it. Even when your instinct says, just stay quiet. You need to speak. You need to open the door, even a little. You need to let people into your process. You don't have to perform. You don't have to be strong for them. You just have to be honest. Sometimes survival sounds like, hey, I'm not okay today. Sometimes it looks like sitting in silence with someone who just lets you be real. Sometimes it's a phone call, a walk, a letter, a moment of eye contact that reminds you that you're still human. You weren't meant to do this alone. Even if you've learned to depend on yourself, even if you've been hurt before, even if it feels easier to go silent, tough times have a way of convincing you that you're on your own. But that is the biggest lie. You're not weak for needing connection. You're wise. Because nobody gets through life alone. And the ones who pretend they can, they break. Quietly, slowly, deeply. There's nothing wrong with needing help. There's nothing wrong with needing someone to listen, to walk beside you, to say, you don't have to carry this by yourself. That's not weakness, that's strength. And yes, not everyone will be safe. Not everyone will understand, but that's not a reason to isolate. That's a reason to choose wisely, to find the people who have earned your trust, to keep seeking connection that feels solid, that feels real. Survival isn't just about staying strong. It's about staying supported. You need people in your corner, people who don't need you to be perfect, people who don't expect you to have it all together, people who are willing to walk through the mess with you, not around you. And maybe you only have one person like that. Maybe you have to build that circle from scratch, but it's worth it because connection is your anchor. And in the middle of the storm, Sometimes you don't need answers. You just need to know you're not alone. You must move your body. When the world feels heavy, your body feels it first. Stress doesn't just live in your mind. It settles in your shoulders, your chest, your gut. It tenses your muscles. It shortens your breath. It floods your system. And if you don't move it out, it stays. It lingers. It builds. It traps you in a cycle where mental exhaustion becomes physical fatigue. And before you know it, you're stuck in a fog you can't shake. Movement isn't about fitness in tough times. It's about freedom. It's about moving your energy, shaking off the weight, creating momentum when your motivation is gone. You're not training to impress. You're moving to survive. Your body needs rhythm. It needs activation. It needs oxygen, blood flow, grounding. When you feel like you're drowning in thought, movement pulls you back to your body, back to the moment, back to something you can control. You don't need a gym. You don't need a plan. You don't need permission. You just need to move. Walk around the block, stretch, do 10 push-ups, dance in your room with no music. Whatever breaks the stillness, whatever breaks the cycle. Because motion disrupts depression. Movement cuts through mental clutter. It gives you a chance to shift state, physically, chemically, emotionally. Your body is a tool, and if you ignore it, it becomes a trap. You can't think your way out of some storms. You have to move your way through them. There are days when clarity doesn't come from journaling or meditation or deep conversation. It comes from sweat, from pace, from breath. You don't need to do it perfectly. You don't need to follow a routine. You just need to interrupt the freeze. You need to prove to your brain that you're not stuck, not helpless, not a prisoner of your pain. Movement is how you communicate with your nervous system. It's how you say, we're still here. We're still alive. We still have agency. And sometimes just standing up and walking across the room is a victory. Don't underestimate that. The body remembers everything, every stress, every trauma, every moment you felt unsafe. And when life hits hard, your body stores it. So give it an outlet. Give it a release. Give it a chance to let go of what it's holding. This isn't about how you look. It's about how you survive. It's about how you regulate your state when nothing else is working. It's about how you get through the next hour without collapsing. There will be days when the most spiritual thing you can do is move. Not think, not analyze, not talk. Just move. Get out of your head and into your body. Walk until the thoughts slow down. Stretch until the tension breaks. Breathe until your shoulders drop. Don't wait for motivation. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Move now. Move often. Move even when you don't feel like it, especially when you don't feel like it. Because motion creates momentum, and momentum can save your life. You must monitor your inputs. In a hard season, what you consume becomes critical. When your mind is vulnerable, when your spirit is low, you are more impressionable than you think. If you feed yourself fear, negativity, outrage, hopelessness, don't be surprised when you feel numb, anxious, or stuck. Your emotional state is directly tied to what you allow in. This is not the time to sit around, mindlessly watching the TV, or surround yourself with people who constantly expect the worst. This is the time to protect your environment like your life depends on it. Because in many ways, it does. When you're in survival mode, you must become intentional about everything you let in, what you listen to, what you read, who you talk to, the tone of the voices around you. Not everything is safe for your peace. Not everything is safe for your clarity. You can't listen to people who are addicted to complaining and expect to feel hopeful. You can't spend all day consuming crisis and expect to feel calm. You can't keep engaging with things that makes you feel smaller, weaker, or more afraid and expect to rise. You become what you absorb. You reflect what you're exposed to. And in a tough time, your energy is too valuable to waste. You need to pour in what lifts you. You need to guard your attention like it's your most sacred currency. This is where people miss it. They think survival is just about holding on. But no, it's about filtering. It's about choosing to turn off the noise, unfollow the source, pause the conversation, walk away from the energy that takes more than it gives. You need to hear truth. You need to hear courage. You need to hear the voices of people who have made it through, who speak life, who challenge fear, who build you back when you're breaking. You're already in a battle. Don't surround yourself with people or messages that add more weight to your back. Find the messages that remind you who you are, that call you higher, that help you reset, that breathe strength into your process. You don't need 100 voices in your ear. You need a few consistent ones that keep you steady, that bring you back to center, that tell you, this is hard, but you can handle it. Curate your space. Read the words that nourish. Listen to the things that fuel you. Stay close to the stories that inspire you. Distance yourself from any input that leads you into deeper darkness. Even small shifts make a difference. 10 minutes of something that centers you, a moment of silence, a page from a book that speaks to your soul, a person who holds space for your reality without feeding your fear. Your survival is not just physical, it's psychological. And when the world feels chaotic, you must build an inner world that feels solid. You must decide what gets access to your mind. Not everything deserves a voice in your life. Not everyone gets to speak into your direction. In a hard season, you don't need noise. You need nourishment. You must stop negotiating with fear. In hard times, fear grows louder. It multiplies. It builds arguments that sound reasonable. It dresses itself in logic and says, now is not the time. Fear tells you to play it safe, to wait, to shrink, to delay your decisions, to avoid risk, to stay where you are, even if where you are is breaking you. But fear is not a voice you can trust when the pressure is high. Fear always looks bigger through the lens of stress. And if you start making agreements with it, it won't stop with one decision. It will take everything. It starts with a single hesitation, then another. Then you're building your entire routine around comfort, around safety, around not now. And suddenly you've built a prison out of your own protection. There's nothing wrong with caution. But there's a difference between being strategic and being paralyzed. And you know the difference. You feel it in your gut. If you keep negotiating with fear, you will lose the very momentum you need to make it out. Because fear is not a fair negotiator. It only takes, it never gives. It's not there to protect you. It's there to preserve the version of you that's afraid. And if you're serious about surviving this season, that version of you cannot be the one calling the shots. You don't overcome fear by arguing with it. You overcome it by acting in spite of it, by choosing courage before you feel ready, by doing the thing you know you need to do, even while your hands shake. There will be times when the move you need to make will terrify you. That's not a sign to stop. That's a sign you're close to growth, close to freedom, close to something new. And you won't always feel bold. You won't always feel brave, but you don't need to feel it to be it. You just need to move. You just need to say, fear, I hear you, but you don't get to decide. This isn't about recklessness. It's about refusing to let fear narrate your future. It's about refusing to let your next step be dictated by your worst case scenario. Because the cost of letting fear decide is not just inaction, it's regret. It's potential left unused. It's progress delayed. It's power wasted. So you show up afraid. You speak afraid. You walk into the room afraid. You take the shot afraid. You keep moving because what's on the other side of fear is always something greater than what's behind it. Courage isn't loud. It's quiet. It's often invisible. It's the decision you make in silence when no one is cheering for you, when no one is watching, when everything in you says, wait, and you move anyway. If you want to survive this season, you have to get used to fear being in the room. But you don't hand it the mic. You don't let it drive. You let it sit quietly in the back while you go build the life it told you couldn't have. You must keep your vision alive. In hard seasons, it's easy to lose sight of where you're going. It's easy to become consumed by what hurts, what's missing, what's uncertain. But if you let the present pain eclipse the future you're building, you'll forget why you started. You'll forget that this season is a chapter, not the whole story. And when you forget your vision, survival starts to feel pointless. You must remind yourself why this fight matters, why your healing matters, why your growth matters, why it's worth waking up, showing up, trying again, even when it doesn't feel like anything is changing. You don't just need discipline in tough times. You need direction. You need something to aim for, something to hold on to when the progress is invisible, something that pulls you forward when you can't push yourself anymore. Your vision doesn't have to be grand. It just has to be clear. It has to mean something to you. It has to touch something real in you. Otherwise, when it gets hard, and it will, you'll drift, you'll settle, you'll shut down. You need to remember the future you're protecting, the person you're becoming, the standard you're setting, the people you'll impact, the story you're rewriting. You don't need motivation. You need conviction. You need a vision strong enough to make the suffering mean something. You need something so real, so rooted, that it makes your current struggle feel temporary, even when it's relentless. You don't build vision from comfort. You build it in chaos, in pain, in fog, in failure. You build it by lifting your head, even when your heart is tired, and saying, I'm going somewhere. I don't know how yet, but I refuse to stay here. You speak your future out loud when your reality says you're lying. You hold the picture of your next chapter in your mind like it's oxygen. You stop waiting for proof. You decide to believe before you see. That's what makes vision powerful. It's not a snapshot of what is. It's a blueprint for what will be. And in tough times, it's the only thing strong enough to pull you through. This is not about delusion. It's about direction. It's about staying aligned with what matters when everything else is screaming for your attention. Write your vision down. Speak it daily. Revisit it when your hope runs dry. Don't just think it. Build around it. Build your schedule around it. Your boundaries, your habits, your people. When you're tired, your vision will remind you why rest matters. When you're discouraged, your vision will remind you that this pain is part of something bigger. When you feel like quitting, your vision will whisper, not yet. You survive tough times by refusing to live only in the present moment. You plant one foot in your current reality and the other in your future. And every step forward is a declaration. I'm building something. I'm going somewhere. I'm not done yet. You've made it this far for a reason. Not to stop, not to collapse, but to stand, to strengthen, to step into what comes next with more clarity, more truth, and more resilience than you've ever had before. Tough times are real, but so are you. And your survival was never about being the strongest. It was about being consistent, being willing, being honest enough to adapt, grounded enough to endure, and bold enough to keep showing up. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to have all the answers. You just need to do the next right thing, and then the next, and then the next. That's how you make it through. Hold on to your principles. Protect your energy. Speak the truth over your life, even when your circumstances don't match it yet. And remember, you are not what you're going through. You are who you choose to be in the middle of it. There is a version of you on the other side of this that you haven't even met yet. Stronger, wiser, clearer. And every day you endure, every step you take is shaping that future. Keep going. Keep breathing. Keep building. Keep believing.